Hi guys, welcome back to Fix or Pass. We're on episode 11 now. On this episode, we're gonna bring you all Camaros because we just debuted our current sweepstakes car, a really killer 68 Camaro. So make sure you're entered to win on that. And stick with us, we're gonna review some of these projects and tell you whether you should scoop one of these up and fix it or maybe pass on it. So let's get it cracking. Right off the bat, we're gonna start with a 68 Camaro. This one looks like it's up on the East Coast, like the Northeast, Hudson Valley. So let's read a little bit about this. First picture, you can see this car is outside, kind of in the woods there, in a clearing. 68 Camaro project car, was originally 327 V8, 3-speed automatic, 10-bolt posi traction car. So this was kind of your standard Camaro, nothing too exotic. Doesn't look like it's an SS or anything. Had a 6K tack, staple shifter with gauge pack, full stainless trim, comes with the rotisserie as shown. New quarters, new upper and lower side cowl panels, new dash panel, new deck lid, spoiler, rear tail panel, all glass, most of the original parts, 9,500 or best offer. So this is somebody's project that they were starting. Let's look at some bigger pictures. This looks like kind of probably what they started with. Here's a body tag, that's kind of nice. You can decode this and see, where it was built and the options it had. And here you can see there's the rotisserie he was talking about. So somebody started doing a lot of rust repair on this car, which is probably a good thing. Typically these cars that we see up in that area in the Northeast, they need a lot of rust repair. So it's hard to say, so they had all this in bare metal and it looks like it's flash rusted. So you're gonna have to go back and probably media blast this car again. There's still a lot of work left to do. You can see the back side of the dash, so there's missing cowl pieces there. Lot of rot down here in these areas, so these rockers still need to be replaced. These inner wheel wells still need to be replaced. Here's the inside of the 10-bolt differential. So not a ton of pictures for how big of a project it is. You're gonna have to call this guy and see exactly what's going on, get some more current pictures. $9,500, so not a bad deal, not all the money in the world, but this is a huge project and there's a long way to go on this car. I would pass on this. We're kind of spoiled being here in the Southwest with the rust and stuff, so we can find cars, maybe not as cheap as this, but close to this that are a lot further along. So I would pass on this car. If it was a real high option car, I would probably say fix it, but nothing too rare and valuable about this Camaro. Next one, 69 Camaro Pro Touring, $29,000. This one looks like it's in the Bakersfield, California area. Let's read a little bit real quick about it. Pro Touring project, has an Art Morrison AMG GT Sport front subframe set up for an LS swap, coilover shocks, Detroit speed rear end, subframe connectors, 9-inch housing, on and on. Okay, smooth firewall. So there's a lot of work already done to this car. It looks like it's already sitting on a chassis and a suspension. Real high-end parts. This Art Morrison stuff is no joke. I mean, these are some serious components on this car. Corvette wheels, all glass except front windshield, needs body work. Really good Pro Touring car. Let's look at some pictures here. So yeah, you can see the car is in primer, pretty much no rust. There's some questionable trunk patch in here. This is gonna need a little bit more finish work to dial that in. So you really want to look at the car. It looks like there's even notes right here. It says rust holes. So there's still some work to do here. These molding seal holder areas, in the trunk, they get rusty. Molded in spoiler, this is kind of a neat touch. This is all molded in. Not your typical 69 Camaro. The rear quarter panel here has got some work done to it. Smooth firewall. Nice tucked bumper. The trunk looks like it's got that spoiler done too. That's kind of a neat look, I like that. Pretty hammered fender. You might be better off just replacing this with some replacement sheet metal. You're gonna have a lot of metal work getting that fender smooth. But this car is well on its way. It's got some expensive parts. It doesn't sound like it comes with an engine and transmission. So $29,000, if you include the price of finding a 69 Camaro shell in decent shape, then all the stuff that's been done to it in the parts list, I would venture to say he probably has this much just in parts in this car. So this is a good deal. You're well on your way to a really, really high-end Pro Touring car if you finish this off right. So the money's there. If you did want to sell this, you probably won't be upside down. I'm gonna say fix on this one. Nice Pro Touring Camaro. Next one on eBay, 68 Camaro, project needs restoration, title in hand, sold as is. This one is in South Amboy, New Jersey. So $10,000 buy it now price. Let's see the description here. 2-owner title, 10,000 miles, last recorded mileage. Vehicle needs rust repair. Original V8, 4-speed car. Subframe connectors, transmission's gone. 10 bolt with a 327. Will run if you hook everything back up. Okay, most cars are that way. When you hook everything up correctly, they should run. But anyway, let's look at the, wow, this thing is pretty wild. This was somebody's bitchin' little hot rod in probably the 80s, I would say. It's got like a pink paint job and all these really cool graphics on the side. But it's been neglected. You know, you can tell this thing was somebody's pride and joy back in the day. It's got a very like period dated look, which is kind of coming back around. I see guys building cars this way now with center lines and some cool graphics and stuff. They're having little get-togethers with all cars that are kind of that pro street vibe. But this thing is hammered. It got left outside somewhere. It's on the East Coast. You can see down in this rocker area, everything's just gone. There's rust coming through the fender tops, up on the quarter panels here. This is a huge, huge project. You're probably, by the time you get this thing dialed in, you're not gonna have much of these cool graphics left. I'm gonna pass on this thing. It's missing bolts, so you can tell this diff cover was probably off. There's no shocks in the car. So somebody's probably been taking parts off of it. They took the transmission out. A trunk, looking in the trunk is usually a pretty good indicator of what you're in for when you buy a car or a project car, because it almost tells a better story than anything. Commonly you see stuff that's been worked on or reasons the car got parked or whatever. There's gonna be evidence of that in the trunk. In this case, there's no transmission, and you can see the bell housing, the flywheel, and some other miscellaneous trim parts and stuff are in here. But always check the trunk. You know, sometimes you'll find like a bunch of distributor parts, and that's a good indication they were having some ignition problems. Stuff like that, you can find them in the trunk. So that's kind of a cool little thing to do. This guy posted pictures of it. This car, like I said, it's hammered. There's almost no floors left. You can see parts of the ground, the earth showing through there. It is a Camaro. Here's got the VIN number, engine sitting in there. All right, this thing's rough. $10,000, I don't know what you're really getting, because everything on this car that's there needs a lot of work or just to be outright replaced. You're getting a title, so that's kind of valuable, but I'm gonna pass on this car. Big project. Anything that was cool about this car, like that whole 80s vibe it has, you can't really keep it because it's so rusty. You're gonna have a hard time. Even if you get this car together, running and driving, there's structural rust in it, so you're gonna have a hard time making it safe. Pass. Next one, 69 Camaro Z28 X77 rear-wheel drive manual, $35,000 buy it now price. So right off the bat, I'm gonna guess because this is a real Z28, that's where the value is. Let's read a little bit about it. By the numbers, built 12C, Daytona yellow code, which I'm assuming this is a lot of the original paint still on this thing. 4-speed Muncie is date coded as well. So yeah, that's pretty cool. You get a date code correct engine and trans with it. Car was raced during the 70s. Floors were removed to make way for a tube chassis. This being the reason for floor and rocker replacement. However, the real hard work is done. Good bodywork and paint will make it an eye catcher. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting one because it is a pretty valuable car in its original form as a Z28, but it's already been modified. So I don't think it's anything you couldn't reverse if you wanted to restore this car to factory spec. But some of the modifications too, if you were gonna, upgrade this car, the modifications in the back half would allow for a lot bigger tire. So if that's the look you're going for, it's already done. So let's see, exterior, GM quarters and yellow primer, original doors need minor rust repair, all GM sheet metal. That's kind of cool. A lot of the reproduction stuff doesn't fit the best, so if you can find clean original sheet metal, always a better choice. Roof skin is new Dynacorn, good bumper cores, most brackets. So Dynacorn makes a ton of sheet metal. They're like one of the go-to companies. So it looks like the roof skin's from there. So this car probably did have a lot of rust, and they started making progress towards getting rid of that, putting different doors in. Let's see, engine, running driving project with a rebuilt DZ302. Okay, that's a really cool engine. The DZ302 was like kind of an engine they put in some of these cars to get homodulated for Trans Am series racing. So that's really valuable. If you have a date code DZ302 Z28 from 69, that's one of the hottest Camaros you can get. You know, there's some Copo stuff that's really neat out there, but this is one of the coolest ones. If you walked onto a dealership floor in 1969 and left with this car, you were doing it right back then. So it's got a lot of the parts, Eaton posi. I think it's worth the 35 grand. Let's look at some more pictures. This is a project, but it's the right car. So putting a lot of work into it, it's something you should do with this car. You know, this car deserves to be put back to all its glory, being a Z28. And it looks like they've made some progress. A lot of the original parts are there. It's really cool that they try to use original sheet metal where they could. You'll want to talk to this guy and see how many of these trim parts you can get from him, like if he's got that stuff in boxes. He's got the stamp here on the engine so that you can tell that it's, you know, a numbers matching engine, which is what you want in this car. That's the main thing. You have numbers matching drivetrain. Pretty complete, you know. It looks like they did a lot of work. That's a whole new floor pan, new exhaust. So this car's further along than some of the other projects we've seen. Maybe the Pro Touring car was probably a little further along than this. But I would lean more towards keeping this car more original-ish just because of the way it's spec'd out from the factory. I'm gonna say fix on this. This car's up in Massachusetts. So another thing, Northeast cars, they're very prone to rust. It looks like this car got a lot of that already taken care of. So definitely fix on this car. Z28 Camaro, hard to beat. There's a lot of generations of Camaro that are becoming popular now. Second gen Camaros are really hot right now. They handle really good, they drive nice, and they're a little cheaper than the first gens, so a lot of times they're a real popular choice for those reasons. And I'm even seeing a lot of third gen Camaros. Here in California, we have smog laws that kind of prohibit us from doing anything fun as far as horsepower on those cars. So we don't see a lot of them built here, but in the rest of the country, they're getting really popular because it's a real strong platform. It has more modern car stuff as far as getting that car to handle good and drive good. You're a few steps closer. You're not changing major components to get better results with those cars. So look into those too. You know, first gen Camaros are the iconic ones. These are the ones I know I would lean towards just because how they look. You know, they're just burned into my memory. Those cars were always the coolest ones at the cruises and stuff. So if you want one, there's varying prices. There's entry-level cars that you could put a lot of work into. There's Pro Touring cars for sale that are projects. There's Z28s still out there. So don't get discouraged. Even though the prices can seem really high on these, just keep digging. There's good deals out there. And we'll try and bring you as many of those. Like always, all these links are in the description below, so you can click on them, take a peek at them, see what they go for in the end, and maybe get yourself a nice Camaro project. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week with more Fix or Pass.